Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doctor Janine Show. I'm so happy to have you all here today. Please say hello and where you are watching from today. I hope that you're enjoying some good weather. Maybe not. It is the season that the temperatures are cooling down. That's something that we did talk about last week, was the benefits of cold exposure. If you missed it, make sure you check out that episode. And guess what we're talking about today? We sort of tapped in on it a little bit last week. The health benefits of having a pet. Most specifically dogs. I'm going to show you some research. It really is quite interesting, especially with the aging population, so important in terms of having good health and for longevity. We're also going to talk about stress today. Yes, again, 'tis the season. A lot of people are really stressed out this time of year, so we're going to talk about the adrenal glands. We're going to talk about cortisol levels. We're going to talk about pregnenolone. If you don't know what that is, it's something that we've covered in the show before, so we're going to review that a little bit. Leptin levels as well. If you're having difficulty getting that weight off and, around the holiday season, which is just around the corner, this is a time when people could be potentially gaining a lot of weight, so we're going to talk about that and helping to making sure that, of course, we are balancing our hormones and why that's so important and why we need to tune into not just our food and what we're eating and our exercise routines, but also our environment. So we will talk about that. And ladies, we are talking about PCOS today. So this is one of, the big topics that I always get questions every time I go live. I get a lot of questions, of course, on PCOS. So we're going to go through some of the common symptoms of PCOS and, more importantly, my tips for stress reduction and dealing with that adrenal fatigue and our cortisol levels as well. And of course, that dreaded belly fat. All right. Who is here today? Nice to see you, Oliver. Thank you for tuning in today. It's so great to have you here. Philip as well. Steph, good morning. Nice to have you. Jeanette in Nashville, Tennessee. Nice to have you here. Safrina, hello and good morning. Great to have you here. Tay Storm, thank you for tuning in today. All right, well, let's get started. And first I want to talk a little bit about that stress response. And it's something that I'm going to sort of demonstrate here with some illustrations, which I'm a very visual learner. Put a 1 in the comments if you like to learn visually as well. But this is something that we definitely want to see what's happening with that stress response in terms of what's happening with our hormones. And it's something that, yes, many hormones play a part. We always hear about cortisol, but before the cortisol, there are some other brain chemicals that we're dealing with as well. So when we talk about, again, our brain and our stress response, we know that the pituitary gland is going to be secreting something called ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Now, this is now stimulating the adrenal glands. And just so that you know, the adrenal glands, does everybody know where they are? All right, I see a lot of 1s in the comments there. Okay, our adrenal glands, let's take a look at Lucy really quickly. So, of course, I took her apart. So behind our digestive tract, and in this area behind the pancreas, of course, on top of the kidneys. And if, you're checking your kidneys, if the doctor is checking your kidneys, they do a kidney punch from the back because your kidneys are actually sitting and your adrenals are sitting closer to your back than they are to your front side. All right, so the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys, all right, and they are secreting those hormones. Let's go back over here so that you understand this. Okay, so again, the adrenal glands secrete cortisol, which we're going to be talking about the timing of cortisol in the day, which becomes very important for your balancing of hormones as well. We'll come to this in a second. Let's go back. As well as adrenaline. All right, so that fight or flight response that you may have heard about in your sympathetic part of your nervous system so that you can run away from whatever's chasing you. This is part of this entire, cascade of what's happening. Now, again, what is happening with that stress response in terms of cortisol and our adrenaline levels, your liver now is converting glycogen to glucose. So your liver is actually making blood sugar. It's making glucose. We have an increase in blood pressure. We also have increased sweating. This is part of, if you get really stressed out, you may have experienced this. Fast breathing, an accelerated heart rate, tunnel vision, and your digestion actually slows down. This is often why if you're really stressed out, you can't eat because of the stress response. That's slowing down digestion and you lose your appetite. It's actually not advisable to be eating when you're super stressed out, okay? So this is something that, yes, now we definitely want to look at Can we look at the next slide really quickly? All right, so I want to show you this because this becomes really important when we're looking at the timing of our cortisol, because for a lot of people our cortisol can actually spike at the wrong time of day. It's something that you can have testing done in terms of your timed cortisol, in terms of salivary cortisol tests. I know some of you may have had that done. But more importantly, we can see the spike. So of course, in the morning, we see that spike of the cortisol. So typically around 7 a.m. is going to be your highest peak of your cortisol. And that's to wake you up out of that sleep response when your melatonin. So again, these are working sort of counter to one another. Your melatonin levels are higher at nighttime. Your melatonin drops as your cortisol goes up first thing in the morning. That's very important for balancing hormones and that stress response. Yes, normally your cortisol is high, but now what happens for a lot of people is that cortisol is spiking throughout different times of the day. Different situations are going to stress you out. Your cortisol and your stress response goes up, and now you have a mismatch with your circadian rhythms. And this is why you can have difficulty sleeping later at night, because you're not going to have that proper ebb and flow of your melatonin and your cortisol levels. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Say hello if you're here for the first time. It's so great to have you here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you are following. And hey, I totally appreciate it if you could all hit that share button a few times right now, 5, 10 times. That would be great. I love having new people come into the conversation. And this is so important when we're talking about, yes, Vanessa, if cortisol is at 2.5 in the morning. So again, I don't speak specifically to everybody's, lab tests and things, but if your cortisol is not peaking in the morning, maybe you haven't had that restful night's sleep, maybe you do have leptin resistance, maybe you do have pregnenolone steal, some of the things that we're going to talk about in today's episode. So great question. Again, when we are, thank you. And Cheryl, I'm so glad that I'm able to help and enlighten you. And I do want to say, so if you are new and here for the first time, thank you for sharing today's live, Sunny. Great that you shared today's live. Thank you so much. I totally appreciate that. Now, don't forget that we're going to have some fill in the blanks happening today, as well as our quiz questions. So we're playing for a prize. So that is coming up. So stay tuned. I'm going to announce last week's winner from last week's show as well. So that is coming up, and it's great to have you here. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about now. When we're talking about, again, with that stress response, it has a lot to do with what's happening in your brain health. And you know that I focus in a lot when we're talking about nutrition. Some of these things we'll talk about, even with PCOS. Our nutrition for our brain is really important because this is the master controller of course, everything that's happening in the body, as well as what's happening, especially we know that the hypothalamus, it has our master clock. So the SCN in the suprachiasmatic nucleus of the brain, this is where our master clock for our circadian rhythms, this is where it sits. And this is another reason why our light environment and, of course, getting enough sunlight, all the things that I talked about in my videos, becomes very important. To really simplify it, taking care of our brain health based on what is coming through our eyes as well. Remember, our eyes are an outer attachment of our brain. It's the only part of our brain that's actually outside of our body. And that connection between our eye health and our brain health becomes very important. What signals are we bringing into the body from our light environment, which is causing all these cascades? Okay, so that becomes very important. All right, so the hypothalamus, we know, CRH is going to stimulate the pituitary to secrete the ACTH, and that's going to now tell the adrenal glands, okay, stress response, cortisol. Now that cortisol is also giving a signal back to the brain and to the immune system as well. So this is why often when you're stressed out a lot, you're more prone to get sick. Your body and your immune system isn't fighting on your behalf, and this is how it's all tied together, okay? So taking care of this at a deeper fundamental level becomes very important. All right, thank you for tuning in today. It's so great to have you all here. And please say hello if you're here for the first time. Put a 2 in the comments. Great to have you here. And guess what time it is, everyone? Okay, so if you are here and you're new for the first time, Eve D, thank you for sharing today's live. If you are here for the first time, you're in for some fun. Okay, we're going to have different quiz questions throughout the show. And remember, we're here live. You have the ability to win a prize. So this week we're playing for the Stress and Sleep Formula from our great friends at VitaTree Nutritionals, Whole Food Vitamins. So grateful for them for making the show possible in the first place. All right, are we ready for our first quiz question? All right, here we go. We're playing for that Stress and Sleep Formula. True or false? Okay, you're gonna have 30 seconds on the clock. Cortisol spikes at 7 a.m. Something that we just talked about. Put true or false in your comment section. And let's see how everybody does here. Even if you're just tuning in now, just keep it at it. All right. We have about 15 seconds left here. How's everybody doing? Yes? Good job, everyone. Okay, 5 seconds left. Everybody got your answers in? I hope so. All right, we're out of time. Okay, so yes, if you said, of course, true, you were correct. Is something that we just talked about. And that's why getting your circadian rhythms into the right rhythm with the light and dark cycle of the day becomes very, very important for your overall health, especially if you are challenged. So either you're underweight or you're overweight. Getting these cycles into balance is going to help with your proper metabolism, because I often focus on, weight gain and people that have gained weight and you can't get that weight off, but even for weight loss. So if you have lost a lot of weight, your circadian rhythms are not in sync with light and dark. Maybe you've got the lights on too long after the sun has set, and that can cause, your thyroid to be off kilter in terms of your circadian rhythms, and that can cause that weight loss as well. All right, so let's continue on. And I do want to call out last week's winner, so congratulations. You were the winner of the turmeric curcumin from our great sponsors again at VitaTree, and that was Amanda. Congratulations, good job. Please shout out and say hello, give us a thumbs up if you are here, so that I can say hello again. And I hope that you're watching because you won the prize. Congratulations. Make sure you are following Team Dr. Janine. So if you see any commenting coming on the different social platforms from Team Dr. Janine, that is my team behind the scenes. We thank them every week for answering questions. I can't get to everybody's questions when we are live. That's why we have tomorrow's Q&A. So tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll do a Q&A. I'll be able to answer more of your questions tomorrow. Okay, so that's on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll see you then tomorrow. Okay, but let's continue today's show. And talking about, we will be doing some fill in the blanks. That's honestly my favorite part of the show. I love the quiz questions as well, but fill in the blanks is another way to sort of teach you some newer information, or sometimes we review something that we've covered before in a previous show. So that's a little bit about what's happening today. But first, we're going to talk about some tips to reduce that stress response, reducing cortisol. Even when it's peaking at the wrong time of day, this becomes problematic. So let's balance out those cortisol levels. And if you're stressed out a lot, you've got to make sure that you're balancing out that cortisol. It's something that, when we get to, and we'll talk about pregnenolone steal syndrome, very important that we are managing our stress levels. Okay, tip number 1 is to get more sunlight exposure. No surprise here, right? We did talk earlier about that whole connection with, of course, the light signals coming into our eyes, to our brain, and what's happening with our circadian biology in terms of being able to have the proper timing of the peak of our cortisol levels first thing in the morning. That's to wake us up and to give us lots of energy. When it's peaking at the wrong time, this is problematic. So this is often when people have high cortisol levels, it's because not so much that it's high, but it's high at the wrong time of day. Okay, so getting more natural sunlight exposure, and that means early morning sunlight, so sunrise for the first hour of the day for most regions, depending on where you live. And please let me know where everybody is from, because I failed to ask that question at the beginning of the show. So if you're in a nice sunny place, I'd love to hear. So let me know. But this is important. So that sunrise, but midday sun as well. So if you work indoors, or if you live indoors a lot, just try to get out at least 3 times a day. So in the midday as well. So sunrise, midday, and then outside for as much time. Hey, if you can spend all day outside, or by an open window, this is going to be the best for your health, especially if you're struggling with a lot of stress response and a lot of, cortisol peaking at the wrong time. Okay, so sun, number 1. Number 2 is getting grounded. So grounding helps to lower our overall inflammation. We know that the inflammatory response is going to heighten that pregnenolone steal syndrome, which I'm going to show you, and that's going to increase our cortisol levels. So this becomes very important. So taking your socks and shoes off and getting outside, getting grounded. I went through some different techniques for grounding in winter last week. So if you missed that, you got to check out last week's episode. Of course, it lives where you can find long form video. Okay, number 3 on my list is Getting your sleep on point. So having a regular sleep schedule, your circadian rhythms, really, really important to get to bed on time. Shut off the screens and the blue lights and artificial light, you know, after dark. It's very, very important. Number 4 is to fix, of course, your leptin resistance. Now let's talk a little bit about that pregnenolone steal. Now when you've got leptin resistance, when you have that chronic inflammation, which was number 2 on my list for lowering your cortisol, of course, pregnenolone comes from cholesterol, and I know this is a review for some of you, but just so that you know, again, honing in on the fact that with pregnenolone steal, that pregnenolone, instead of going to your DHEA, your testosterone, your estrogen, your thyroid hormone, your progesterone, that is going to now be stolen and actually making more cortisol when we have this whole scenario of the pregnenolone steal syndrome happening. Not a great thing. Now, your blood pressure won't be regulated properly, your cortisol levels are off the charts at the wrong time of day, messes up your circadian rhythms, further messes up your thyroid function. You start to either lose a lot of weight or you gain a lot of weight because your thyroid is now messed up because of what's happening here. So we have to lower that stress response and fix that leptin resistance. What does that mean? How do we do that? Again, number 1 on my list, so going back to our list, sun, grounding, sleep schedules, eating the right diet, very important for fixing your leptin resistance. I've got a ton of other content on fixing leptin resistance, so you can check that out if you're new here. Hello, nice to see you here. Armando is in Albania. Very nice to have the sun there, I am sure. And Jair in Kenya, in East Africa. I'm sure it's nice and sunny there as well. Great to have you all here. Eugene in Ireland, thank you for tuning in today. Mary in Washington, Teresa in South Africa. So great to have you all here from all corners of the earth. I truly appreciate it. I'm Dr. Janine. It's great to have you here. Raina, thank you for sharing. And Kaladi Arts, thank you for sharing today's live. It's great to have you and so many new people here as well. So please make sure that you are hitting that follow button, that you are subscribed. We do the live show every single week. And as you can see, if you're new to my content, I have thousands upon thousands of videos all about natural healing and health, of course, and tips how you can feel better, of course. And balancing your hormones is a big thing. And of course, with our stress and our cortisol levels, that's what we're focusing in on right now. All right, so we're fixing our leptin resistance. Again, check out my other content on how to do that. Number 5 is doing some deep breathing, meditation. We have to lower that stress response. And here's one of the things about exercise. As much as I love exercise, it's fantastic. Exercise is part of a stress response. So at the end of any type of exercise that you're doing, always take the time to do some deep breathing, some stretching, because it tells your body that you're in a safe place again. You're not being chased by a bear. Remember that stress response that we opened the show with. So that becomes very important that you just take a few moments to stretch, to do some deep breathing. That's why at the end of a yoga class, after all the chaos of a hard yoga class, or shavasana, you're lying down and you're just tuning back in that you're in a safe and connected place. I hope that makes sense for you. For those of you, and I'm hoping that everybody does some form of movement, that you're all exercising. Okay, number 6 on my list, my favorite, of course, dark chocolate. Now, did you know that there's actually research that shows that dark chocolate helps to boost your BDNF? So this is your brain's growth factor, growth hormone. So this is fantastic for actually helping to decrease that stress response. So yeah, go nuts on your dark chocolate. Just make sure, again, we've talked about it in previous episodes, that it's a good quality organic one that doesn't have heavy metals in it. Okay, number 7 is green tea has also been shown in the research to help to lower cortisol levels. So yeah, just don't drink it. If you are sensitive to caffeine, just don't drink it too late at nighttime. Okay, number 8, remember we were talking earlier about DHA, so brain foods. DHA, where do we get the most DHA from? Of course, is fish and seafood. Shellfish as well. Oysters loaded with DHA. We talked about oysters on the show a couple of weeks ago as well. So give me a thumbs up if you've tried the oysters. You knew that I was going to ask you, and we were going to ask that question. I'm going to keep asking you. How many people in the last week, since last week's show, have had oysters? I want to see how many thumbs up. Yes? Yes? Okay, please. Yes? Okay, Neaton, yes, you did. Awesome, awesome. At least we have, okay, and Darcy Douglas has had oysters. I'm so glad. Anybody else? No? Okay, Mia, yes, you had some oysters. Caroline also had oysters. I'm so glad. Okay, so this is great. Richard also had oysters. Awesome job. Loaded with nutrients, as we talked about in the show. Safrina, nope, still haven't convinced Safrina to get in on the oysters. All right, and Zanette, you also had some oysters. Love it. Okay, awesome. So that DHA from the oysters and other seafood, lamb also has DHA if it's grass-fed. That is going to be brain food. This is going to help to balance out cortisol levels. Number 9, okay, this is important, herbal medicines. So there's a certain combination that I have used for years with my patients, and when I educate about different supplements and things, this is what I talk about. This combination, VSP, and then L is the lemon balm. So valerian, skullcap, passion flower, and lemon balm. Now these are created by Mother Nature, of course, and they help to lower that stress response. In combination, I really love these herbal medicines, really powerful for panic attacks, anxiety. If you've got issues with just being stressed out all the time, it lowers what I call that hot wiring on your nervous system. So I absolutely love this combo. So that can really help to reduce, again, that peak of that cortisol that's peaking at the wrong time. All right, and number 10 on my list is to play with your pets. Now there is some research, it's something that we will be talking about in today's show, specifically dogs, but the research, has shown that if you play with pets, animals, it can lower your stress response and help to deal with that high cortisol. Okay, you can screenshot that list, and we are going to continue on, and I do want to share my viewer spotlight for this week, and this was from Hip Lopez 8627. Thank you so much for all of your wise and wonderful health advice. Well, thank you so much, Hip Lopez. Thank you so much for sharing this great news. It's always great to have such great feedback, you know, show after show, and whether you have comments throughout the live, which I love, or on any of my content, any of my videos, I truly, truly appreciate that. And, you know, I hope that I am able to shout you all out one day. We have so much great feedback that it's difficult sometimes to be able to get to all of you, but I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in every week. It's so fantastic to have you here. All right, so now we are going to talk a little bit about things that we shouldn't be doing after dark. So things we shouldn't necessarily be eating after dark. But before that, okay, or why we should not be eating after dark, because this is something that unfortunately is going to mess up some of that hormonal aspect of why we need to be balanced in our hormones. It can mess up our cortisol levels, it can lead to weight gain, and this is why we definitely want to make sure we're not eating after the sun has set. And I know that becomes very difficult for people that are living in a more northern, place like I do. Depending on your latitude where you live on the planet, then it gets dark very early right now. So it can be a little bit tricky to not eat after dark, but this is why you want to not eat after dark. And I'm going to give you 6 different reasons why. Now we're also going to be talking about the health benefits of having a pet in your home. So that is coming up. All right, let's go with number 1, of course, is your leptin signaling. So yeah, your leptin secretion is going to be happening when ideally you're sleeping after dark, usually around midnight or a little bit after that. And this is really important that the brain chemistry is timed properly. Remember that SCN, so the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, your master clock has to be coordinated with your other organ systems, like for instance, your thyroid gland. So having those proper connections with going to bed on time and fixing and not having food in your system, because when you spike your blood glucose levels, it will suppress your melatonin, but also it's going to suppress your thyroid hormone, and it will suppress the proper leptin signaling. And this is how people get that leptin resistance. So you can't eat after dark, okay? That's really important for your leptin signaling. Okay, number 2 is for fat burning. So everybody's heard about intermittent fasting. Put a 1 in the comments, you've heard about intermittent fasting. And this is something that if you do it at the wrong time, so if you are actually fasting your breakfast instead of fasting maybe your dinner. So I love intermittent fasting, and the research is definitely there. Okay, I see a lot of 1s in the comments. Thank you so much. I know that, what the research is showing is that by doing fasting, it actually helps to upregulate a lot of our systems, which is a great thing, and actually can help our circadian biology. It helps our leptin signaling. However, if we fast our breakfast, that's the wrong time to fast. If you're going to fast, especially for your leptin signaling, you're fasting your dinner, because remember, after dark, we don't want to be eating. So if you're going to do the intermittent fasting, this is something that I want you to try. Just switch it over. Eat your breakfast, a good healthy breakfast, part of fixing our leptin resistance. One of my tips is very important, but you want to fast your dinner, okay? Because you're not eating after dark. that fat burning is optimized. So especially if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to get that extra fat off, especially the belly fat related to that cortisol as well, which we've talked about. You want to do that intermittent fasting at your dinner. Okay, number 3 on my list, another reason not to eat after dark is that you're going to suppress your melatonin. So your melatonin, remember going back to the chart when we talked about cortisol and our melatonin, that spike of our melatonin comes as we're sleeping. Now, if we spike our blood glucose levels, something that we talked about last week, right here, that melatonin, you're not going to get that proper peak of your melatonin. So let's say we eat something here, that 9-10 p.m. snack because you've got the munchies, then this curve is going to be down here. Okay, your melatonin secretion will be suppressed. It's just a fact of life. So yeah, you don't want to be eating after dark because you don't want to mess up your sleep, and that's part of your metabolism as well. Okay, number 4 is your thyroid function. So again, your thyroid is not optimized if you have a higher blood glucose and insulin secretion. You can't burn fat when you are secreting insulin. And you also can't get that proper balance of your thyroid function, whether you're hyper or hypothyroid. That needs to be optimized by not eating after dark. Okay, number 5 is blood sugar and insulin regulation. I've just talked about that, right? We don't want to do that. That's going to mess up all these other hormones that we talk about here. And number 6 is increases your overall inflammation. So if you're that person who has the sore back, the sore knees, the sore hips, the sore ankles, so whatever it is, you've got chronic inflammation in your system, that could be in the skin as well, it could be acne, whatever that may be, then yeah, you don't want to be eating after dark. It only heightens the inflammatory response, and that's important for your immunity as well. So a little bit of fasting, you know, after dark is going to help your immunity as well. All right. Guess what time it is? Okay, this is my favorite part of the show. Please say hello. Hey, if you're here for the first time, thank you for the gifts. Anna Proud, thank you so much. I see those gifts coming in. That's very generous of you. Thank you so much for, you know, making sure that you tuned in, and you're so generous during the show. Amazing, amazing. Manette in Brampton, nice to have you here. Thank you for tuning in today. It's great to have you here. Okay, now, yes, you can go to bed on an empty stomach. Is it neaten as you fix your leptin resistance? If your stomach is empty, you won't even notice, because you'll know that your leptin resistance is fixed when you can go to bed and not be hungry before bed. Okay, that's a great indicator that you know that your leptin signaling is actually improved or much better or completely, you know, normal again. All right, so let's do now my favorite part, the fill in the blanks. Is everybody ready for this? All right, this might be a little bit tricky, maybe not. I'll give you some hints if you need. Okay. So we talked about last week cold exposure, and let's look at blank number 1. So everybody just participate, just try to put your answers in the comment section. Let's see how everybody does here. Okay, cold exposure is a way to stimulate our blank to turn on blank, the making of more body heat. Okay, so does that make sense? Let's see. Linda, yes, interesting. Yeah, D. Sweezy, thank you for tuning in for the first time. Great to have you here. I hope that you hit that follow button, that you are subscribed. Great to have you here. We do the show every Tuesday. So every Tuesday we are live here at the Doctor Janine Show at the same time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow I will have a Q&A, and make sure if you are new that you're checking out all of my content that I have all about natural medicine. Okay, often things that you've never heard before, but how this is related to, you know, getting yourself healthy. All right, and this is happening tomorrow, of course, our Q&A. All right, so do we have, we don't have it. Cold exposure is a way to stimulate our, maybe I can draw it. Maybe if I try to draw this, you'll kind of get what that is. No, we're not, we still don't have it. How else can I hint on this one? Some of you, we got it, somebody got it. Yep, we got it. Yes, who was it? Grace in Texas. Grace TX, you got it. Okay, so stimulate our mitochondria. So I won't write it all out. Our mitochondria, yes. Okay, we've got a lot of you getting that right. Okay, Bazib, you've got it. Deb Suma, Frozen's Matt, yes. Marzi. Mary Ann, you got it. Jim as well. Serafina. All right, perfect. Now, what's the next? As Rastapati, I think that's how I say it. Music addict. Okay, awesome. All right, so to turn on, now what is the making of more body heat? This is a long word. Let's see if you can get it. Thank you for the follow. Tina and Vilma, Angela, thank you so much. Teresa, so many new people here today. And we're having fun here at the Doctor Janine Show. Of course, every Tuesday, this is what we do, and teaching all about natural medicine and how we can get healthier. All right, here we go. We have a music addict. You've got it. All right, I love that. Yes, user 676, almost. You almost had it. Anybody else have it? Yep, small changes. You've got it. Okay, perfect. Yes, so turn on is called thermogenesis. I have to say it and spell it at the same time. Oh, I didn't do a great job. But there, can you read that? Okay, thermogenesis. I'm always accused of being a doctor that I can't write, but that's all right. Making you more body heat. Okay, the long-term benefits of cold exposure include increased fat. What? Do we have it? Yes. Yes. This could be a few answers. Okay, optimum midwife, I like that. Hustler, yes. Yes, okay, so increased fat loss or burning. Yep, burning. Okay, perfect. Improved, what's the next one? Improved. What type of system are we improving with doing some cold exposure? Yes, I see it, Raina. I like this. All right, anybody else? Hustler has it as well, of course. Anybody else has it? All right, immune, yes, user with a bunch of numbers. Okay, yes. Okay, so improved immune system, and what's the next one? I'll give you a hint with this, what I'm looking for, because it's kind of random what I'm with the blank. So which gland is this? Of course, cold exposure helps with our, anybody? Yep, black pepper, that's also a good answer. Devra Konda had it first, I believe. Blue Sky has it, of course, Raina. Grace in Texas, Devil Blues, Stacy, so many regulars here. Lori, thank you for tuning in today. Lisa Marie is here as well. Right, so for improved thyroid function. All right, and okay, cold is also great for aches and pains because it reduces, what's our last blank for today? Reduces, Maggie's got it. Maggie had it first from what I can see. Good answer, good answer, good answer. Wendy Sue, also good answer. Sonia, yes, also good. Somebody had spell correct, Safrina, it said information instead of course. Yes, everybody's got it now. Philip, Eileen, Angelia, yes, of course, inflammation. So inflammation. All right, there we go. Everybody has those answers. Good job, everyone. So that was a little bit trickier if you haven't heard any information about cold exposure before. It's something that we covered in last week's show. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about some tips for PCOS, polycystic ovaries. But first I want to talk a little bit about the health benefits of having a pet. All right, and this is a lot of the research shows specifically for dog owners, but I mean, I'm sure the same would apply in terms of having a cat as well. And let's talk about some of those health benefits. Okay, number one, so for all my pet lovers, of course, improved emotional well-being. Now, in this report, it was found that dog owners specifically scored higher on all aspects of well-being compared with cat owners, and differed on a number of different measures. So for whatever reason, having a dog actually helps with your well-being in this one study. Now, that's not to say that cats aren't really beneficial for your health. Of course they are as well, but that was just in that one study. All right, another benefit, of course, of having a pet, especially for a dog that and requires a lot of exercise, is that you yourself get more exercise. So that is another great attribute. It gets you outside, which is something we always talk about, and it requires for you to walk that dog, right? So more exercise. Okay, number three, helps to lower blood pressure. So this was actually studied. So this was a study done by Friedman et al. In 2013, and they reported that just the mere presence of having a pet, in particular a dog, improved the blood pressure in older, so in the 50 to 83 age group, adults who actually did have hypertension. So isn't that interesting? So yeah, so that was was one study specifically on, more mature crowd who did have high blood pressure, that just having a dog in their surroundings helped to lower their blood pressure. Okay, number 4 is improved cognition. So in another study, the researchers actually suggested that owning a pet could reduce your cognitive age by up to 15 years. Okay, so your brain gets younger by up to 15 years just by owning a pet. So that is incredible as well. And of course, number 5 is increased social interaction. So yeah, this is, as you go to the dog park, you go out for a walk, and yeah, you usually end up conversing with more humans because you have a pet. So isn't that interesting? All right, so there you go. Let's continue now. Guess what time it is? It is quiz question number 2, and we are playing for the stress and sleep formula from our great sponsors, of course, VitaTree Nutritionals. All right, this is a true or false question. You're gonna have 30 seconds on the clock if you're just tuning in right now. And please put some, ask for the emojis, the doggy emojis, after we do the quiz question, for those of you who love your dogs and your cats, and yeah, so healthy. Okay, that's gonna come up in a second, remind me. All right, here we go. Quiz question number 2, true or false? The stress response increases glucose production in the liver. I only said it once, but I talked about this. Okay, how you do, true or false? Let's get your answers in now. You've got another 25 seconds. Okay, let's cover this here. Everybody getting your answers in. Okay, 3 seconds left. Yes? Got our answers in? All right. Of course, let's reveal. Yes, and the answer is true. Of course, yeah, it's something that we talked about. So why did I ask this question? Because if you want to, think about why I asked certain questions. Thank you for sharing. Please hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit that like button as well. I see all those hearts coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you so much throughout the show. And make sure you're following as well. So why did I ask the question about the glucose response? So when you're stressed out, it spikes your blood glucose levels. Anybody who has diabetes or who's medicated or on insulin, you know that this is true. For those of us who, have somewhat normal pancreatic function, you may not know that, or if you've ever used one of the patches, hey, put in one of the comments if you've ever used the glucose monitor patch on the back of the arm. I'm curious. And yeah, you may have, made that correlation that when you're stressed out, it really does spike your blood glucose level. So you don't even need to eat the carbohydrates, the sugar, the chocolate, whatever it is. It is, something that can spike your blood glucose. Okay, Stacy, you've tried the glucose monitor. Yeah, they're a great tool, I believe, to use for short, term or long term. That it's a way to definitely get some data as to what's happening with your blood sugar levels. Okay, I do want to talk now, ladies, about PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome, and what are some of the common symptoms of this? This is a question that I get a lot of questions on my social media, and I wanted to cover this. It's something that I've covered before, but I wanted to sort of readdress it. And what are some of the most common symptoms? Okay, so the big one that usually, this is the one that's most concerning, especially if you are, wanting to get to the doctors, is weight gain. So, up to 80% of women with PCOS are actually overweight. So it's very difficult sometimes to get that weight off, despite the fact that you're dieting, exercising, and, if you have that inflammatory process with the PCOS, that can be very problematic, okay? So you've got the weight gain. Okay, number 2, very common as well, that you've got the acne. So the testosterone can make the skin much more oily, and this is in women who, typically have the higher testosterone levels. You're getting more breakouts, and especially around the face. So you're breaking out here with your acne, but also on the chest region. It can be on the upper back region as well when that testosterone is higher, okay? So that would be another indication, again, of the PCOS. And this is something definitely you're getting some blood work done, that you're going to visit your practitioner to have this investigated if it's not yet been diagnosed. Okay, another one is hair growth. So an increase in hair growth in the wrong places. So a lot of women will start to get hirsutism and that hair growth, you know, in those darker hairs in the chin area. It could also be on their back. It could be on the belly area, on the chest as well, as it's related to that higher testosterone. Okay, number 4, hair loss. So you may experience now the male pattern baldness because of the higher testosterone. All right. And number 5, a lot of chronic headaches. So those hormonal changes with PCOS can trigger those headaches in not every woman who has PCOS, but it's something that Run with Diana. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that you're going to learn something, because I'm going to go through my tips to help with that PCOS. Some of you may have, you know, the headaches associated with the hormones being out of balance, and some may not. All right, so yeah, it's exactly Run with Diana. Yeah, it's very difficult, is saying with PCOS, very difficult to lose the weight, and the acne just simply doesn't clear up, and it's what's happening from the inside. So when you've heard me talk about acne and skin conditions before, it's really what's happening on the inside, and with the hormonal imbalance and with your environment as well, that is dictating what's happening with the skin on the outside. Okay, so I do want to say thank you so much. We will continue with my tips in just a second for PCOS, but thank you so much to my super fans, and thank you to everyone who supports my channel throughout the week when I'm here live, and the Janine shows as well. It's so great to have you all here and tuning in. I do have the best fans, I just have to say, on social media, because you make sure that you come to the show. Even if you're a couple minutes late, you make sure that you tune in every week, and it's so great to have you all here. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I see all those hearts coming in as well, and the generous donations that you give throughout the show. I appreciate you, and thank you for sharing as well. Raina, yes, my super fans are the absolute best. Now, let's continue on. I believe I'm going to share. I do want to know, please, who was able to make the macaroons? All right, so we made the macaroons last week on the show. Was anybody able to make the collagen macaroons? Oh my gosh, they're so delicious. And if you haven't yet, make sure you check out last week's. Mickey, yes, you made some macaroons. Amazing. They were low carb. Kathy, you made them as well. Optima Midwife, where's the, okay, yeah, I should have prepared my team to get the recipe ready. Okay, we'll revisit that recipe if we can find it in just a second. We do have it. Okay, so if you missed last week's show, oh my goodness, we made the low carb collagen loaded macaroons. I plan to bring them with me tomorrow. I'm going to television, and I'll be there for 3 days. So I'm going to bring some with me, because the host, one of the hosts, Renee, she absolutely loves when I bring anything that is made with, collagen or protein powder. So I'm going to bring it for her. Yeah, so here it is, the collagen powder, the unsweetened coconut. If you can screenshot this really quickly, eggs, melted grass-fed butter, the monk fruit sweetener, or any sweetener that you like, really. If you want to keep it low carb, then that's why we use the monk fruit, but you can use any sweetener really here. Vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and if you want the mini chocolate chips, aren't they delicious? Oh my goodness, love them, love them. Yes, I'm so glad that you are able to make them, a few of you. Amazing. Okay, let's go through my tips now for PCOS. I've got 6 tips that are really going to help. Number 1, really important, something that we've already talked about today when we're talking about our cortisol levels, our stress levels for weight loss especially, you've got to fix your leptin resistance. Now, there is some research that has shown, as you can see here, that leptin levels are elevated in women with PCOS. There's a direct correlation here. So fixing your leptin resistance, check out all my tips for fixing your leptin resistance. Very, very important. That's going to be in my new book that is due to launch in the new year. So please make sure that you're following me so that you get all of that information as to pre-sales of the book and everything. And it's going to be so much fun. So here we go. Go to my website, drjaninebowring.com. You can send an email, which is fantastic as well, to make sure you're on the mailing list. Yeah, and make sure that, you're checking out all of the latest information that's coming out regarding, and of course in my book I did really focus in on that, environmental reasons why we can't lose the weight, and of course that leptin resistance, so you got to check that out. So yeah, so we know that women with high leptin levels, so leptin resistance, also are overweight, and they are, again, prone to that PCOS, so that's really very important. Number 2, doing and following Mother Nature's prescription. So getting your circadian rhythms back in balance with nature, the light and dark cycle of the day, your grounding, your sunlight exposure, super, super important because of that signaling, what's happening on your skin. There's something called POMC, and that actually is the cascade of what we're talking about with our cortisol levels, and that is directly influenced by how much sunlight you're getting on your skin. If you're not getting natural sunlight, UV on your skin, you're not building a tan, then this is problematic for your entire system. All right. So, and with PCOS, this becomes even more important for balancing your blood glucose levels because the leptin, remember, is tied to your blood glucose levels as well. So not getting enough sun is going to exacerbate the PCOS. Okay, so making sure we're following Mother Nature's prescription. Sunlight. Grounding, outside. All right, number 3, increase your fiber intake. We do have to take care of our gut health. Really important for balancing those hormones. And when we've got some of those hormones that need to be bound and actually, cleaved and brought out through the digestive tract, this becomes really important for that hormone balancing. So getting enough fiber. As women, we tend to not get enough fiber. It's really important that we're getting enough. Thank you for all the love coming in. Thank you for double tapping the screen and all those likes. And thank you for following today. Barb, thank you for sharing. I appreciate when everybody hits that share button. Sommelier, Anna Proud, thank you so much for the roses and the hearts and all the gifts that you're sending as well. Thank you. Your generosity is like overwhelming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. And when I see that on one of the platforms, we've got actually, my team is putting in the recipe from the low-carb collagen macaroon. So I see that. So thank you for my team behind the scenes. All right, number 4 for PCOS is, of course, getting that gut microbiome healthy again, so probiotic containing foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, live foods, very important for your gut microbiome. Getting outside more, great for your microbiome. Some people do actually need to take a high quality probiotic, so that would be recommended as well. Just always making sure that it's actually designed for your human gut, for your human microbiome, okay, really important. And make sure that it doesn't have, let me run over here really quickly. Make sure if you are taking a probiotic, something that we've talked about in previous episodes, make sure that it doesn't have that magnesium stearate. Most encapsulated probiotics, they contain this, the magnesium stearate, which is a flow agent. You don't want to be ingesting this in any of your supplements. I mean, probiotics are notorious for having that magnesium stearate. It's not magnesium. It's a flow agent. Never been tested to be safe for long-term human consumption, yet it's in most supplements out there. It's scary stuff, okay? So you want to avoid that. All right, as well as number 5, magnesium. So did you know that magnesium regulates your blood sugar? We know that high blood sugar, leptin resistance, is related to the PCOS. So, and that's one of the reasons why you can't get your weight off, is your metabolism has become sluggish. So you need to get more magnesium into your system. Most of our food now, unfortunately, has become very depleted in magnesium. So actually taking it in a magnesium bisglycinate, my favorite form, I've got videos on this as well, my favorite form of magnesium to take, really helpful for regulating your blood glucose levels. And remember, you take it in the morning because you're eating your calories throughout the day. I know everybody tells you to take magnesium at nighttime, but you've learned here at the Doctor Janine Show, we take our magnesium bisglycinate in the morning. It helps with our metabolism. Really, really important. All right, number 6 is fish oil. So especially DHA and EPA, those omega-3 fatty acids, and this is what the research shows. And in this study, it was that oral supplementation of omega-3 PUFAs has certain clinical effects on PCOS. And what it did was helping to improve endocrine levels and reduced blood lipid levels. So helping to balance out things like cholesterol, triglycerides, really important to get enough of that DHA and EPA. Eating oysters, it comes back to that, right? Of course. And, seafood as well, or taking a high quality DHA EPA supplement is also very beneficial for a lot of women with PCOS. It's something that I always prescribed in my practice with my patients, my PCOS ladies, and great results. I mean, it's one thing to take a fish oil supplement, it's another thing to get a high quality one that's higher in that DHA, and that DHA is, what as humans we tend to be much more deficient in. And of course DHA, just as a quick reminder, DHA concentrates in the eyes but in the brain as well. So coming back to the top of the show where we talked about, the signaling for our cortisol levels and our stress response and inflammation in the body and being overweight, it comes back to taking care of our brain tissue. One of the superfoods for the brain, of course, is DHA. So if you're not getting enough in your diet, you're definitely supplementing with a high DHA supplement, and that's something that's really important for this entire cascade of all of your hormones. Okay, again, I'm talking a lot today, aren't I? I hope that you love it. Thank you for the follow. Peterbilt, thank you so much. Great to have you here. *7, you eat fermented sauerkraut. Amazing. So good. And again, I love your questions. Paula, thank you for tuning in from Greece. Great to have you here. I appreciate all the love and all the likes that are coming in. All right, guess what time it is? If you're new here, we play for different prizes, okay? So today we're playing for the Stress and Sleep Formula from our great sponsors at Vitatree Nutritionals, the sponsor of our show. We thank them again for supporting the show and making sure that I can come here every week and talk to you and educate you and create all of the social media that I do. All right, now for this question, I think everybody's gonna get this one right, all right? It's something that we just talked about. Here we go. You've got 30 seconds on the clock. If you're new here, just try to answer the question. You got 30 seconds, no stress. Name a nutrient important for PCOS. All right, you got 30 seconds on the clock. Name your answer now. Okay, we've got about 15 seconds left. I like these answers. Very good. Very good. 5 seconds left. Everybody got their answer in? Over here. All right, we got it? I like that. M5959. That's funny, actually. Okay, some jokes came in as well as answers. All right, yes, let's reveal, of course, the best foods and then some important nutrients, of course, for PCOS. So fiber we talked about for the healthy gut microbiome and making sure that we're getting enough DHA and EPA or omega-3 fatty acids, probiotics. Magnesium is a big one as well. So congratulations to everybody who answered those correctly. Good job. Now remember, I will be announcing the winner from this week's show. I'll be announcing next week, so make sure you are tuning in next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. So we do this every Tuesday, 11 a.m. I am live for usually about the hour-ish. And we have different health topics every single week. And if you're just tuning in right now, we've talked about PCOS today. We talked about having a pet, specifically a dog, and the health benefits of having a dog, reducing cortisol, that whole stress response, and the adrenal glands, what's happening there. And some of the reasons why we shouldn't be eating after the sun has set, after dark, because it can mess up our hormone signaling, it can mess up our proper sleep, of course. And no makes Musini, you came late. Oh, I'm so sorry that you are tuning in late, but it's okay. I'm glad that you came here. If there's anything that you wanted me to review really quickly in terms of PCOS, our health benefits of pets, we can pull up some of those charts really quickly. We also saw a little bit about the coconut macaroon recipe that we shared last week. And please, okay, so I promised that I would ask for the pet emojis. So if you love pets, please put a dog, a cat, a fish, whatever, into the emojis. Love the fact that, everybody's very, engaging in my lives, and you love to participate, and I love when we see, of course, the those emojis. Rena, I see a lot of doggies in there. Theron, yes, I see that. Amazing, and yeah, okay, I see more dogs than cats right now. However, I'm sure there's some cat lovers out there as well. Chicken on biscuits, that's actually funny. Can I even know? Is that a shrimp or a crab or something? That's actually funny. Yes, cats and dogs, music addict. All right. Gigi Who, nice to see you. Marzi. Oh, that's a cute emoji with the dog on a leash. It's very specific. Oh my goodness. Love it. Okay, Linda as well. Ramoon, Wallace, lots of doggies I see here. All right. So thank you for everybody who tuned in today. What a great show. I had so much fun. Now next week, of course, we're going to have a whole set of new topics. We will focus in a little bit more on that POMC. So if you want to do your research before next week, you may not even know what that is. POMC, we'll talk a little bit about it. I'm just going to give little interjections of what POMC is and why it's so important in terms of sun exposure, okay? Why it's so important at the crux of, you know, our leptin signaling and even things like, you know, blood glucose regulation, and of course with regulating our body weight as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about that next week. Just look up POMC. All right, let's see if you'll be ahead of the curve in terms of next week's lesson. Let's call it that. Thank you for everybody who tuned in today. It's so great to have had you all here. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow is, of course, our Q&A. So if you do have more questions for me, I will answer them tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's at a different time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I see some questions coming in on black seed oil, cholesterol. I'll answer those questions, of course, tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye.